All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Life Less Perfect podcast. I'm super excited today to announce that we have a local guest. I love having local guests. Calgary person, Sandra Catania, lives in Calgary. Sandra is an intuitive card reader and oracle deck creator. I don't know if y'all know this about me, but I'm a big fan, a big fan of tarot, all things oracle, all things divination. I love it. And Sandra delivers messages from spirit in a fun and playful way. She began her journey in holistic healing as a reflexologist. I love that. I don't know if anybody's had reflexology done, but it's amazing. She incorporates mind, body, and soul revival techniques into those sessions of reflexology, which is really cool. I want to get into that. Sandra's passion for spirituality led her to start the Calgary Goddess Group. Where was I when this was happening? 2007. I was still in a bit of a place, so wasn't into the goddess movement yet, but fully love that. I'm going to love to hear about that. Where she brought together hundreds of like-minded women connecting and networking over the past decade. That's really cool. In recent years, Sandra expanded her spiritual practice by studying shamanism. Oh my God, this is not a soul sister. I don't know who is. At the Institute for Shamanic Medicine, and began creating her own oracle decks. Her love for crystals, flower essences, and essential oils enhances her work, offering a holistic experience to those she serves. I will testify, Sandra gave me a free reading, and it was amazing, like, just so accurate and bang on and so beautiful, and so I'm excited for anyone who wants to share and go and do that with Sandra, and, well, of course, we'll be linking all of her stuff in the bio. So, Sandra's card readings are not only insightful and accurate, but she also infuses it with a playful and uplifting energy that her clients adore, and I certainly adored my reading. So Sandra believes that the key to overcoming her recent challenges of experiencing a serious car accident and losing her mom to dementia lay in diving into her creativity and following her purpose and passions. So, wow, that is awesome. So welcome, Sandra, to the Life Less Perfect podcast. Love having you here. Do you want to say hi to audience?
Hi, thank you so much, Shauna, for having me. And I am just completely lit up to talk about what is it that's driving me and what I'm offering to the world, the service that led to being.
Absolutely. So I love this, this is obviously the premise of the podcast is, how we have these ups and downs, what's the saying that life is certainly going to give us difficulties, but the suffering can be optional. At least I believe that. And maybe you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and your story, Sandra, and sort of, what's got you to the now, shall we say, in terms of, overcoming those adversities and how it's actually helped you grow and evolve and served you.
Yeah, so I guess most recently, top of mind is the accident. It was 13 months ago, and coming home from Canmore, it landed me in the trauma ward for 4 days, and I had multiple injuries, broken ribs, fractured sternum, and some bumps and bruises, and all kinds of things that really stopped me in my tracks. I was living my life in a way that wasn't sustainable. I was working 2 jobs, sometimes twice in a day. Really getting to a point of burnout and not really being present. So I think the universe needed to knock me really hard, unfortunately. And then, yes, my mom was in late stages of dementia at that point. So my sister and I had just gone through a few years of settling her into a home and making sure she had the care that she needed and just kind of slowly grieving her. They call it the long goodbye. And yeah, so the grieving process kind of was already happening. And I think I was in avoidance around a lot of things in my life. I was just kind of just trying to survive. And so since the accident, I really had a lot of time to reflect and do the healing work. But first, I had to overcome the resistance to accepting help. That was one of the biggest lessons this past year. Is I was in a place where I needed so much help. And I learned that it was okay to ask for it and that, I'd been a loving and nurturing and giving person. And maybe it was my turn to be on the receiving end. Such big lessons there.
Mm.
And then just kind of created this space. I haven't been able to work very much. So I'm just starting back at work, but to fill the time with a creative project. So it kind of dropped in that maybe I'll create my own deck. I love giving readings, but wouldn't it be even more special to give them from my creation? So I found that once I made that shift, I was doing my physio and I was, walking a dog and just appreciating life and being present. And once I created this project to work on, it really alleviated a lot of what I was going through. It was such a great outlet for that purpose and passion to come through. And yeah, so out of it came this beautiful deck that I co-created with another local, an artist named Andrea Kimberly. And she and I worked so beautifully together. It was so much fun. And we had pretty much the deck completed in about 6 weeks in the spring. So,
Yeah, and I just wanna speak into that a little bit because Andrea Kimberly is a mutual, friend, as you said, and she is an incredible artist who, helps people integrate, their work in psychedelic medicine, through an art representation, and her drawings are stunning and beautiful, and she did an incredible one for me for my last journey, and I'm hoping it'll show up maybe in your next deck, so that's really exciting. Yeah, awesome.
yeah, and the readings I've been doing with it so far have been so bang on, and like I'm getting a lot of really positive feedback. It is meant to be a light kind of beginner deck for people who are maybe just starting their journey and starting to awaken to the possibilities of things like vibration and frequency. And so I've been writing a blog post to go along with each card, and I'm 5 weeks in, and it's beautiful. It's such I love to write, and I love that I've got 70 of these posts to write, so I got 65 to go. But it's a journey for me as well as the people reading it, and uh, I'm really enjoying the whole thing.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that story because I know it was a difficult time for you, but I love that you get, that this is again spirit working for you, life working for you, universe working for you. Like, this is the thing when we get going down that wrong path and we start to ignore, I'm sure there was some part of you that was saying, I can't continue on at this pace.
Mhm.
Doesn't feel right, I'm not feeling well, whatever. There's always something there, right? I mean, I like to say you heard in my last podcast, spirit usually sort of starts with a whisper, and
Oh,
we don't
sure.
we don't pay attention to that whisper, we get the brick upside the head. Were there any whispers happening for you, Sandra, before that
Oh,
sort of
for sure. Yeah. No, definitely. I had an arm injury that I was just working through and ignoring. And even before that, when I retired from reflexology, the thumb injury was happening for a while. And it's a redirect. And I needed to stop and listen and take better care of myself. I think, especially as women, we just kind of go, 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 go and give until our tank is empty. So yeah, I definitely was having these little nudges of like, well, what about you? And it's okay to I wish I could take away that negative connotation around the word selfish because it's not selfish to look after yourself. It's necessary.
especially those of us practitioners involved in the healing arts, we do tend to have this thing where we just, give and give and give and give, and yeah, there's this negative connotation somehow. And, let's be real, I think at some point we all have maybe gotten a message of we're not worthy, of sort of that self-love and self-care, and, it seems trite, but that old adage of, putting your own oxygen mask on first is really just it's the truth. It needs to happen. We can't serve from an empty well, right?
Absolutely. And that's actually what my next deck is about is being self-resourced.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Excited.
really nice.
I'm
I'm
excited.
very yeah.
I wanna order. I really love your first deck. I think it's lovely, and I love the pull that I got, which was all about you're going to live a long life and with lots of wealth, and I'm like, "I received that."
Oh yeah. Sign me up.
So, that's beautiful. So, um, tell me a little bit I'm curious just to kinda if you're okay to go back a little bit, I'm curious about your shamanism and what that was like and sort of how does that play into sort of how you serve your clients now?
Mhm. I It's kind of a funny story. I started out as a reflexologist at a clinic, and there was a poster on the wall from this Institute for Shamanic Medicine, and there's a picture of my teacher, and I knew there was an instinctual feeling that's my teacher. That I'm going to take that course. But it took me about 12 years to actually get there.
Yeah.
And and I'm so grateful that the timing aligned. Yeah, I do believe in divine timing. I needed to go have some other life experiences first. And so I signed up, and it was every second month for a weekend. And then I got to spend a week long on Salt Spring Island doing ceremony there. And it was like a remembering, really. We did a lot of drum journeys and we discovered all of our animals on our wheel and the power that came from that and the it's hard to put into words. It's magical. And I realized I'd had many lifetimes in different healing roles and bringing people together. There was a lot of that, bridging cultures. And I see that reflected in some of my life experiences so far. So, yeah, it's magical. And there's nothing else I would rather be doing, really. It's important work and it's opened my heart so big. And I'm really, really grateful for my experience and the people I've met, and then now the people I've been able to serve
Yeah.
with that knowledge.
Beautiful. I love
Mhm.
that so much. And isn't it interesting because it's clearly, being in the healing arts and service to others and all of those things is part of your path. So so where do you think you got off track? Like what sort of, would you care to share about that a little bit?
Well, likely my marriage, my second marriage, when I don't want to say failed, it fell apart. It was time to leave. But I think I put so much time and energy and effort into trying to make it work. And I was really focused on that. Again, emptying myself of, of my own self worth, even. Although I do believe all relationships are here to teach us. So it happened the way it was supposed to. And luckily we are fairly good co-parents. We put the kids first. And that's been really the most important thing for me going through it. I think, yeah, it was a lot to overcome. I'm grateful for therapy and my friends and the support system that I was able to draw from during that time. But yeah, I think once I was away from that relationship and able to really piece myself back together, I remembered that there was more work for me to do in the world of a spiritual nature.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's the spiritual path, right? So many people think that this spiritual path is linear, right? And that's why the symbolism for my podcast and my book actually is that, you know, very crazy winding road that our path to waking up and remembering, it's periods of, oh yeah, I remember I'm not just this meat suit here, struggling to fit into society and what society constraints are sort of telling me who I should be. It's like, oh yeah, because that's what happens, so we get going off that path and listening to others and not listening to our hearts and what our as women, especially as our intuition is always trying to get in touch with us and tell us, because we get sort of more, I would say, into the masculine, right? Into the masculine, up into the mind, up into the ego, busyness and doing. And
Doing instead
yeah,
of be. Yeah.
instead of connecting in with that beautiful divine feminine heart energy and intuition, that women are especially good. I mean, men need to do this more too as well, obviously. But, and I think it's when we get, I know for me, whenever I got, way up in here in my Gemini mind, and thinking and doing, and just really not being in touch with that beautiful divine feminine wisdom, that lives in all of us, that I would get off path, right? So it's not this linear route. It's very much an up and down and, all around kind of a thing, right?
I
Yeah.
mean, one of the biggest pieces was around the people pleasing
Uh,
and where that originated from and why I was operating there from there. And I took a course from Jeff Brown called The Abandonment Wound. And that really helped me peel off all of the layers and go back to my childhood and really understand how did I get to be the way I am and why. And once I took that all apart, I realized I was really misguided in my actions. I was not operating from my heart. I was operating from, I'm going to do this so you approve of me or so you love me. And I couldn't continue in that. That was not.
so many women fall into that trap, especially, yeah, the people pleasing trap. And I love that you brought up Jeff Brown. He is amazing. I don't know if you read his book, Grounded Spirituality. He really comes down hard on the spiritual bypassing, which is also one of my things that really kind of gets me going a little bit. You know,
Mhm.
I see it a lot in these communities. It's just like, oh, all love and light and just, say some positive affirmations. And, that really it's so not true. The shamanic path, as you know, is digging down into the depths of our humanity. And when we do that, when we sort of on the shadow pieces of ourselves and really fully incorporate them into our being, is when we really learn to love ourselves fully, right?
Yeah, it's that shadow side, embracing it and forgiving it and loving it and saying you did the best you could with your circumstances. And how can we move forward with the awareness that we now have gained?
Absolutely. So carrying on sort of with where you're at, like, can you tell me a little bit more? So if I were so are you mostly just doing like readings now, or sort of what is your
Yeah,
so
so my time's kind of split between the readings and the creation piece of the next deck, and then the promotion piece of the deck that's out there already. So I'm happy to say I've got the deck in 5 local stores, and I'm very excited about that. And then I'm starting to give readings. Well, I've been giving readings at markets and crystal stores and a little cafe down in Canyon Meadows. Um, and then, yeah, exploring kind of what's next. I love giving workshops as well. I used to give reflexology workshops, so I started giving a workshop about introduction to card reading. Because a lot of people are just starting out and they don't really know how to go about it. And I, I teach that there's no one way to go about it. There's no wrong way. But here's some guidelines. Here's some things that may assist you. Really about checking in with, like, finding a quiet space, grounding, breathing. There's so many elements that can lead to a more successful reading. It's the preparation piece. And then there's a lot around the integration piece. Like with your reading, I sent you the cards so that you could take some time and journal and meditate on the messages that came. And
I love such
yeah.
so spot on for me. So tell me about that process a little bit more. So because that's the thing, right? So anyone can really, use the cards or, anything. I like a pendulum that I like to play with. It's just a divination tool. And I know there are some religious aspects that are sort of can be offended by that. And to me, I just want to make clear that it's not about dark arts or black magic or any of that nonsense. It really is just a way to connect with your higher self, right? And really just allow, to have that open sort of channel and allow that to move down into the body, into the heart space. All of us are sort of different in how the spirit speaks with us, right? So for me, it's very much almost sort of a clairsentience or audience, sorry, a clairaudience where things just kind of drop in for me. And then, my pendulum will confirm it. Right. So, but tell us about your process a little bit with reading the cards and how do you divine the spirit?
Well, I actually like to start out because of my reflexology background with a face massage. So it takes about 6 minutes, and we go through these different motions. And by the end of the 6 minutes, people are amazed at how their energy is up, and they've kind of just left that busy mind and dropped into the body. So I think
I want
that's
to get into that because that was so cool. I was not expecting that at all. And it was like, this is awesome. This is a really cool way to start a reading. I love that. So carry on.
And I've taught it to many people over the years, and I do get some feedback sometimes. I do that every morning, and that is awesome. I'm so glad that I've been able to bring that tool to you. So it's really, I love to empower people to be able to do things for themselves and remind them that all of their answers are within. I'm not here to tell your future or anything like that. It's like, how about you consider there's a little information coming through. You can take it or leave it. You have free will. So that's really paramount, when I connect with someone to lay those ground, not rules, but, just the expectation that I'm not here,
Yeah.
right? I'm not a fortune teller. Mm.
And the
And
cards never about that, are they? And it's the same with astrology, right? It's like you don't go to a tarot reading, to determine your future or to tell you what choices to make ever, right? Like you said, it's just it's a tool that we can use to help maybe guide us. But really it's a right, does this resonate with me or not? And so you take what resonates and leave the rest.
I was actually just speaking with this with a client yesterday about how it's portrayed in the media, and in society. So a lot of people shy away from it, or they've had some kind of religious background where like, oh, that's evil or the devil's or whatever. No, it's not about that. It really is
Arrow
about
has been
empowerment.
around forever, and
Mhm.
it has some really beautiful, deep roots, and what I love is, honestly, it's sort of religiosity that has sort of gotten the feminine away from working with these beautiful tools. I mean, we used to there's a wonderful book called When Women Were Drummers, right? So we used to convene, we used to sit in circle, we used to drum, we used to help each other in these ways that are now, yeah, considered somehow to be dark arts or witchy or whatever. Even I just want to clarify that word witch. Witch just means wisdom, right?
Mhm.
They've sort of become embroiled and somehow, again, this beautifully feminine aspect has been moved into this thing that's dark and
Right.
dangerous. And honestly, that's what I'm here to do is to help women really just bring that all out up into the light and say, these are my gifts and these are my tools and this is my medicine. And
Like,
just
actually what makes you strong and what helps you impact the world in a positive way. Absolutely. And it's that divine feminism. We see it, it's rising and we are here and there's many of us to come
yeah,
and right?
yeah,
Mhm.
I love that. So tell me about the goddess group. Are you still leading those at all?
No, it was from 2007 for about a decade. So I passed it on to a friend. That really was a beautiful phase of my life to connect with so many women who were like-minded. And I think what I like best about it is the friendships that were blossomed out of introducing all of these women to each other and business partnerships. And there's a pair of doulas that found each other and worked as a team for a long time.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
really.
amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
I loved it. We had get-togethers where it was just fun, like a spa night, and then there are ones that we got out of our comfort zone, like we did a pole dancing class, we did a belly dancing class. We
Oh,
just
I would love to
right?
do both of those things. That's
Yeah. And I just loved how, like, the pole dancing in particular, they came over and we had a group of about 20 women, and a lot of them didn't know each other. And, by the end of the night, everyone's just so supportive and we're just all having so much fun and connecting and really kind of letting those inhibitions go and realizing, we're all perfect just the way we are. Even if we can't do this whole thing perfectly, we had a heck of a lot of fun trying.
exactly. And this is really just the premise of my whole podcast, right? Like not being afraid to take those steps. I really think that it's so important for every woman to really think about like, what are you afraid of? You know,
Mm,
what are you afraid of? Like for me, scared shitless of public speaking. And
mm,
like here I am pushing myself out to the front. Like I've always just wanted to, hide in the background and just do my work. And, who am
mm,
I to tell anybody anything? Well, the truth is, when we get into our 50s, we've got some wisdom to share, right? Like about the goddess archetypes, right? With the maiden, the mother,
mm,
and the crone. There's a beautiful article I'll share with you, Sandra. I'll send it over. There's a woman who wrote about another phase. Now, she unfortunately named it the MAGA,
mhm,
MAGA, which, we don't want to associate anything political, but the MAGA is actually this time now. We need another goddess archetype because I don't know about you, but I don't feel like I'm anywhere near being a crone.
mm.
Right? So the crone to me is sort of from 70 on where you're really
Yeah.
yeah, and so but now they think the mega is between 50 and 70 where we've had all of this life experience, right? We've passed through, maidenhood and into motherhood, and now maybe our kids are grown, and now we're maybe faced with a time in our life where we've got another 20 years, right? And we've got
Mhm,
all of this wisdom and experience to share and medicine to offer, right? Like, wow, this is
mm.
what I learned and this is what really helped me. And like it's just a really beautiful time in your life, I think, to really blossom. We have time because our kids maybe aren't, our first priority anymore. We have time because we can now put ourselves as priority, right? And really
Yeah.
start taking care of ourselves and really just allowing ourselves to grow and flourish into what I think is really our purpose for being here, you
Yep,
know?
absolutely. Yeah. And the healing we do, I love that about 7 generations back and 7 forward, it's like we're the ones that I think are strong enough to make those changes, and break those patterns, not pass it down to the kids or the grandkids. I feel that very strongly. And I'm noticing, yeah, the shifts and the changes and the things that I can impart from, yeah, my many adventures.
Actually, and I just think we just need more feminine leaders, right? More women, spiritual leaders, more just to step out front and just to start to take the lead and start to teach about how we can lead, but from the heart. I'm a lover of Christ and Christ consciousness. And I think the return of Christ is the return of Christ consciousness, which is really about just melding the divine masculine, which is more of the mind and more of the doing than the left brain, and then just melding that with our divine feminine, which is more of the being and more of the heart connection. So when we get that brain heart connection, I think this is where we're really evolving as a species. We're just starting. I think we're still sort of in infancy there, but it's my hope to really spread this message that, when we start to get that brain heart coherence, right, that's when things really start to shift. And that's what I'm really hoping to impart in this next sort of decades of my life, the latter third of my life, shall we say.
Magical.
It is.
And
And
I
that is,
like that you're
yeah. I think we're looking for in the sort of way we're evolving as humans, where it's a less of a top down, sort of rule based, a sort of, I would say, toxic masculine energy, where we're now moving into more coherence between masculine and feminine. And I love it. I feel sorry a little bit for our men right now. I feel like there's a lot of sort of negative energy toward men in the evil patriarchy. And I'm not denying that that hasn't been a significant abuse of power over many millennia here. But it's shifting, and we don't want to paint all of our beautiful men with that brush. I think that they also can learn and are learning to move into that heart space and being more compassionate. And so, as women too, I want us to put our arms around our men too at this time and really help move them into that space too.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
Fall. So, is there anything else you'd like to share with us, Sandra, about what you do and what these trials have taught you? I don't know if you're open to talking about your mom a little bit and her dementia and how that was for you. And I know that grief is a part of life and death is a part of life. And that's the other thing I'm really super passionate about is trying to help people move out of this fear of death. And are you open to sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my mom, I love to honor her by speaking about her. And she was a very inspiring woman. She went back to school in her 50s, got her social work degree. She was a foster mom for a few years and really changed the lives of a lot of young people. She was involved in contemporary women back in the 80s. She really helped women get back on their feet, find employment. Like she was a force. And she lit up every room. She loved to be the center of attention. She loved to make people
I
laugh.
feel her. I feel her. What's her name?
Carol.
Carol. Carol.
Carol. Yeah. Yeah. And very fiercely independent. That's something that she always instilled in me. You can do whatever you set your mind to. And she took me to the Center for Spiritual Living as a teenager. And so I was exposed to that, right? And it was amazing to have that community and that type of that global new thought. It's under that umbrella, right? Is
The trailblazer she was. Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah. So, like I said, I kind of grieved her twice. I've been, that the person she became once the dementia was setting in. It's yeah. She still had her essence. She still loved to make people smile. She called her nurses her angels. And, she flirted with every doctor. So I
Oh,
think
cute.
that
I love
yeah,
that.
she really had this zest for life and living it fully and just the determination to keep moving forward through her trials and tribulations of her life. Yeah, I think what I remember really from the later part of her life is she was in hospital for a while, and I would go in and I'd rub her feet and play frequency music. And one time she just started channeling, and I started to write things down that she was saying because I knew they were coming from source. And it was all about, none of these little details matter, really. It's really, we're here to love and Oh, it was so beautiful.
Oh,
Growing up over here.
I know that the closer we get to that moment, I know that they become very much in tune with that, and so I love that, and I love that you were there for her and able to be there for her, and, again, like, I think we need to just get back more into community and helping each other through that process and really being open to the process of helping our parents pass. I just had a client recently who just, had to help her mother do that. And it was a difficult process because they had been estranged, but she knew in the end that she was called to be there to help her mother, just guide her on that journey and help her face her fears and all of that. And so what a beautiful thing you did for your mom. And how did she have a peaceful journey? Were you able to be with her as she transitioned?
Yes, I was with her for a few hours, a few days before. My sister was actually with her at the time she passed. I remember, I think it was the day before, I was there in the evening, and I just put on Simon and Garfunkel, and she was humming along. She's a big music person, and the Beatles are another of her favorites, and so I hear these Beatles songs when I'm out and about, and it just brings me right back to, "Okay, hi, Mom." Sending me these messages from the other side. I feel her all around. But yeah, I do believe we were able to fulfill her wishes. My brother was here, my sister was here. And we gave her a celebration of life a few months ago that I think really honored who she was. And
Oh, my heart is so full. Like, I really want to honor your mom here in this moment and how she passed with so much beautiful grace and dignity, and how you and your siblings helped facilitate that for her. It's so important. I think if there's anything that I do with this podcast, if I can help ease that or help facilitate people to deal with that in a more graceful way and a more, not to be so fearful of it because, you know, energy can never die.
no, she was into Shakti Gawain and, all that stuff back so many years ago. And she wrote in one of her letters, "Don't be sad. We'll meet again."
They I wanna normalize actually celebrating the transition to what I believe is truly maybe more real than what we're doing here. I think that's our true home and our true essence and our true being, and that it's such a joy to return to that space, you know?
Yeah. And there's a note of peace in her at the end, acceptance.
That so
Yeah.
Well, Sandra, I want to thank you for your openness and your vulnerability to share, what I know has been some difficult times, but more importantly, how you were able to transmute those times and see how they were here to help you move into the direction you were actually meant to be doing,
Yes.
into your
Yeah.
sharing your medicine and into this beautiful work. And so, thank you so much for joining me today. It was my distinct pleasure and honor and privilege to speak with you. And is there anything you want to share about where people can find you and the beautiful work you're
Well,
doing?
thank you so much for having me. It's very meaningful to be able to speak of these things and remember my mom as well. My my business name is Dancing Elk Women, which is my medicine name, which I received in my very first vet lodge several years ago. And I think I've sent you the links to maybe put in the notes there. But yeah, I've got different markets, and I love flying my freak flag, I'm gonna say. I overcame thinking that there was anything wrong with me or that I was a weirdo. I guess I embrace my weirdo-ness. It's it's
And
who I'm ready to be authentic and claim it, and I love connecting with people. I'm doing a reading tonight for a group of ladies at their house after a dinner party, and I'm so
so
excited.
fun. So fun.
Yes.
I love that. Getting
Yeah.
together. And it's not about a freak being a freak. It's like, honestly, this is who we are as women. And it's time for us to step out of the shadows and back into the light. So, just about, before we sign off, I want to get into maybe, would you mind doing a little tarot poll for us just so we can see how your magic works?
I was anticipating this and I brought my little basket of cards. So
Yay.
these and my little smudge bundle.
Mhm.
Uh, these is a deck called Spirit of the Wheel. And yeah, I felt really drawn to opening one up for all of us here. We'll
Baby,
see
love this.
what it has to say. We got the Ducks Fly Moon.
Ooh,
So the
pretty.
keywords here are synchronicity, balance, and certainty. And I'll
Mm.
just read the prayer inside. Great Spirit, help me to bring my body, mind, and spirit into a state of balance. Let my heart be an open bridge to others by staying connected to the energies of the Earth Mother as well as that of the divine. Yeah,
Beautiful. And isn't
I
that
think
what
that
we were
sums
just
it up.
talking about with that beautiful divine feminine energy and that
Mhm,
connection to Mama Gaia? Thank you
mhm.
for that, Sandra.
Mhm, thank
Beautiful.
you. Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you so, so much, Sandra. And we'll share all of your contact information. And thanks again for sharing your beautiful medicine on the Life Less Perfect podcast.
Thank
Stay
you,
well.
Shanna. You too.